The 1970s were wild, weird, and wonderfully stylish. From disco dazzle to punk rebellion, fashion took bold risks, and we're here for all of it. Whether you rocked it firsthand or just wish you had, get ready to rediscover the iconic trends that turned heads and broke rules. Let's dive into the unforgettable style of the 70s. Hot pants. Back in the 1970s, Women's Wear Daily introduced the world to a sizzling new fashion term, hot pants. These weren't your average shorts. They were ultra-short, eye-catching, and designed to turn heads. Unlike casual denim cutoffs, hot pants were often made from upscale materials like velvet, satin, or suede. The look was all about flaunting confidence and showing some serious leg with a glamorous edge. At the start of the decade, top designers embraced the trend and created high-fashion versions meant for more than just lounging by the pool. You'd see hot pants paired with tall boots, silk blouses, and even blazers, blending sexy and chic in a way that had never been done before. Meanwhile, budget-friendly department stores like Sears caught on quickly and made affordable versions for everyday shoppers who wanted in on the fun. Hot pants weren't just a trend, they became a pop culture moment. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis wore them with effortless elegance. Elizabeth Taylor gave them a dramatic flair, and Nancy Sinatra strutted in them like she owned the world. And then there was David Bowie, who bent all the fashion rules and proved hot pants didn't belong to just one gender. It was bold, it was daring, it was pure 1970s. Bell bottoms. If there's one fashion trend that instantly shouts 1970s, it's bell bottoms. These wildly flared pants were more than just a passing fad, they were a full-on cultural movement. Starting out as a niche style, bell bottoms exploded into the mainstream thanks to the influence of celebrity power couple Sonny and Cher. Their hit television show showcased the duo in a variety of eye-catching outfits, and bell bottoms quickly became their signature look, catching the eyes of fans around the globe. What made bell bottoms so beloved was their ability to be bold and expressive. You could find them in classic denim for a laid-back look, in vivid cotton prints that turned heads, or even in shiny satin polyester for that full-on disco vibe. The flair could be subtle or dramatic, but one thing was certain. When you walked in bell bottoms, people noticed. Everyone wore them, men and women, young and old. They were paired with platform shoes, tie-dye tops, or silky shirts unbuttoned just low enough. Whether you were heading to school, the roller rink, or the dance floor, bell bottoms gave you instant cool points. They were stylish, they were fun, and they defined an entire decade of flair. The tube top. In the 1970s, fashion was all about freedom. Freedom of movement, freedom of expression, and yes, freedom from the bra. That's when the tube top burst onto the scene. It was bold, it was daring, and for many women it was the ultimate symbol of liberation. With no straps, no wires, and no structure, it clung to the body like a second skin, creating a sleek, sexy silhouette that felt revolutionary at the time. By the late 70s, tube tops were everywhere. They became a go-to summer staple, often paired with high-waisted jeans or flared pants. And it wasn't just everyday folks embracing the trend. Celebrities helped make it iconic. Cher dazzled in glitzy versions on stage. Bianca Jagger brought high-fashion flair to it at Studio 54, and Suzanne Summers made it mainstream on TV. These women wore the look with confidence, turning what started as a casual beachwear piece into a red carpet and nightlife essential. Whether made from terry cloth, spandex, or sequins, the tube top defined a decade where rules were made to be broken, and style was all about making a statement, no matter how small the fabric. Oversized collars. If there's one detail that screams 1970s style, it's the oversized collar. In that era of flair and flamboyance, tiny collars just couldn't keep up. The fashion world was all about going big, and the collar was no exception. These wide pointed collars, often called disco collars, sat proudly atop button-up shirts, giving every outfit an instant attitude boost. You'd find these dramatic collars on everything from silk shirts to polyester blends, and they were the perfect match for the decade's other bold trends: bell-bottoms, platform shoes, and colorful patterns. They added drama to otherwise classic pieces, making a simple shirt feel like a statement. These collars weren't just for the fashion-forward crowd, they were for everyone. Elvis Presley made them look electric on stage with rhinestone-studded jumpsuits, while Mick Jagger brought rock and roll swagger to the style. Whether you were hitting the dance floor or just heading out for the night, that exaggerated collar said you were ready for fun. Corduroy clothing. Corduroy had always been practical, a sturdy fabric often used for workwear and school clothes. But in the 1970s, it became downright fashionable. What was once seen as rugged and reserved suddenly got a stylish upgrade, turning into one of the decade's must-have materials. From college campuses to disco halls, corduroy was everywhere, and it was cooler than ever. The ribbed texture gave it a cozy, casual look, but designers found creative ways to make it chic. You'd see corduroy bell-bottoms in rich autumn tones like burnt orange, olive green, and chocolate brown. And it didn't stop at pants. Corduroy jackets, skirts, and even full suits hit the scene, offering a soft alternative to more structured fabrics. These outfits had a laid-back sophistication that fit right in with the relaxed yet expressive spirit of the 70s. Who was your biggest 1970s fashion icon? Cher, Elvis, Farrah Fawcett, or someone else? The leisure suit. One of the most unforgettable fashion moments of the 1970s came in the form of a white three-piece suit worn by none other than John Travolta in Saturday Night Fever in 1977. That iconic dance floor strut, complete with wide lapels, flared pants, and an open shirt collar, didn't just define a movie, it defined an entire fashion era. Almost overnight, the leisure suit became the ultimate style symbol of disco cool. The leisure suit was more than just a trend, it was a lifestyle. Typically made from polyester and other synthetic fabrics, it was lightweight, easy to clean, and built for movement, making it perfect for the disco scene. The standard look included a sharply tailored jacket, bell-bottom pants, and a boldly patterned button-up shirt, usually worn with the top few buttons undone to show off some chest, bonus points if there was a gold chain involved. What made the leisure suit stand out was its blend of formal flair and casual ease. You could wear it to the club, a dinner date, or even a wedding, and still be the best-dressed guy in the room. Thanks to Travolta and the disco craze, the leisure suit wasn't just fashion, it was pure 1970s swagger. Wrap dresses. When it comes to timeless fashion moments of the 1970s, the wrap dress stands tall and elegant at the top. Designed to flatter the female form while offering ease and comfort, the wrap dress was the answer to the decade's demand for stylish clothing that also felt effortless. Unlike the flowy caftans or oversized maxi dresses that had dominated earlier in the era, the wrap dress hugged curves, cinched at the waist, and moved beautifully with the body. The woman behind this revolution? Diane von Furstenberg. In 1974, she introduced her now legendary knit jersey wrap dress, and it quickly became a sensation. Women loved it because it was versatile. It could go from the office to dinner with just a change of accessories. It was comfortable, sexy without being revealing, and required almost no maintenance. Slip it on, tie it at the waist, and you were ready to go. The popularity of the wrap dress soared throughout the decade. By the late 70s, Diane von Furstenberg had built a fashion empire worth over $100 million, all starting from this single smart design. More than a dress, it became a symbol of independence and modern femininity, and it still holds that status today. Jumpsuits. If there was one outfit that could capture the glamour, boldness, and sheer fun of 1970s fashion, it was the jumpsuit. This one-piece wonder was a must-have for anyone who wanted to make a statement, and not just on the dance floor. From glamorous parties to everyday wear, jumpsuits became the ultimate fashion flex of the decade. Made in every material imaginable, shiny polyester, breezy silk, daring fishnet, and even artsy macrame, jumpsuits offered endless ways to stand out. Some were sleek and tailored, others were wild and glittery, but all of them brought that unmistakable 70s vibe. The look was body-hugging, flattering, and totally unforgettable, especially when paired with platform shoes and oversized accessories. Celebrities like Cher dazzled in glittering jumpsuits on stage, while Farrah Fawcett and Jerry Hall brought the style into magazines and clubs. And of course, no discussion of jumpsuits would be complete without mentioning Studio 54, the legendary disco where jumpsuits sparkled under strobe lights and ruled the night. Platform shoes. Platform shoes weren't exactly new when they strutted back into the spotlight in the 1970s. They'd had a brief moment in the 1930s, but it wasn't until 17 magazine featured them that they truly exploded in popularity. Suddenly, platforms weren't just for stage performers or runway models. They were on the feet of teens everywhere, turning sidewalks into catwalks and school dances into mini discotheques. These chunky-soled shoes were loud, proud, and impossible to ignore. Covered in glitter, metallic finishes, neon colors, or even wild patterns, platform shoes were the perfect match for the flamboyant fashion of the time. They paired especially well with bell-bottom jeans, jumpsuits, and mini dresses, adding both height and drama to any outfit. While young women in their teens and 20s were the main wearers, men weren't left out of the fun. Guys would rock platforms to nightclubs and discotheques, giving them a little boost on the dance floor and a whole lot of swagger. Even major celebrities got in on the craze. Elton John, David Bowie, and Cher were just a few of the stars who turned platforms into fashion statements. Bold gold chains. If your outfit in the 1970s didn't have a little gold sparkle, were you really doing it right? When it came to jewelry, the rule of the decade was simple. Go big, go bold, and make it gold. Yellow gold made a dramatic comeback during the 70s, and it wasn't just delicate rings or dainty bracelets. People were all about thick, eye-catching gold chains that demanded attention. These chunky chains became a fashion staple for both men and women. They were often layered, paired with wide lapel shirts, and worn over bare skin or open collars for maximum effect. Gold hoop earrings, oversized pendants, and statement bangles rounded out the look, but it was the chain, especially those heavy yellow gold links, that became the standout accessory of the era. This bold jewelry trend didn't fade when the disco ball dimmed. It carried right over into the 1980s, becoming a key element in early hip-hop fashion. Artists and style icons in that movement took the 70s love of gold and pushed it even further. But its roots? All disco, all glamour, all 1970s. When you saw someone in a thick gold chain back then, you knew they were ready to groove and ready to shine. Did you ever wear any of these iconic outfits or see someone who totally rocked them? Micro mini skirts. While micro miniskirts first grabbed attention in the swinging 60s, it was in the 1970s that they truly took off and became a bold symbol of freedom and self-expression. The hemlines got even shorter, the styles more daring, and the message louder. These ultra-short skirts weren't just about fashion, they were about power. Feminist icon Gloria Steinem and others embraced the mini as a statement of independence, shaking off the conservative dress codes of the past and stepping into something fearless and fresh. In the 70s, micro minis were everywhere, from city streets to magazine covers to dance floors lit with disco lights. Designers played with new fabrics and vibrant colors, offering minis in leather, denim, suede, and even metallics. Women paired them with knee-high boots, patterned tights, or tall socks, and topped the look with turtlenecks, halter tops, or cropped jackets. What made the Micro Mini so revolutionary was its unapologetic confidence. It challenged the norms, celebrated the body, and allowed women to take control of their image. In a decade that was all about liberation, socially, politically, and personally, the Micro Mini skirt stood as a fun, flirty, and fearless symbol of a new kind of freedom. Sheepskin coats, shearlings. Back in the 1970s, if you wanted to stay warm and look effortlessly cool, you slipped into a sheepskin coat, often called a shearling. These coats were everywhere, and much like the members-only jacket of the 80s, they became a defining outerwear piece of the decade. Today, shearlings might be considered a high-end luxury item, but in the 70s, they were surprisingly accessible. You could find them in department stores all across America, hanging right alongside denim jackets and corduroy blazers. What made these coats so special was the irresistible combination of comfort and style. On the outside, you had that soft, suede-like leather, smooth, rich, and often in earthy tones like tan, brown, or beige. On the inside, a warm, cozy fleece lining that felt like a hug on a cold winter day. It wasn't just about staying warm, it was about doing it in serious style. Creepers. Creepers were the underground answer to the flashy platform shoes of the 1970s. Still chunky, still bold, but with a rebellious edge. These thick-soled shoes offered all the height without the disco glitz, making them the perfect alternative for punks, hippies, and anyone who wanted to stand out without following the crowd. With their crepe rubber soles and low-cut designs, creepers were built for comfort, but they carried serious attitude. Originally rooted in post-World War II fashion, creepers made a big comeback in the 1970s as part of the counterculture scene. Punks gravitated to them because they looked tough, defied mainstream trends, and paired perfectly with leather jackets, ripped jeans, and studded belts. Hippies liked them too, for the comfort, the uniqueness, and the anti-fashion statement they quietly made. Unlike the shimmering platforms seen at Studio 54, creepers had a raw, understated cool. They were often black or neutral-toned suede or leather, sometimes featuring bold laces or buckles, and their legacy didn't end in the 70s. In more recent years, fashion icon Rihanna brought them back into the spotlight with her Puma Fenty line, proof that creepers still have street cred decades later. Halter tops. When it came to showing off a little skin with a lot of style in the 1970s, nothing beat the halter top. This daring design tied behind the neck and left the shoulders bare, creating a sleek, confident silhouette that became one of the defining fashion statements of the decade. Originally seen as a casual summer staple, halter tops quickly rose through the ranks of fashion thanks to their flattering fit and head-turning appeal. By the mid-70s, top designers had taken notice and began incorporating halter necklines into their high-end evening wear collections. Suddenly, these tops weren't just for the beach or the backyard. They were making appearances at discos, upscale events, and even red carpet galas. Fabrics ranged from soft cotton and crochet to shimmering satin and sequins, each one adding a different twist to the trend. Clogs. Clogs may have centuries-old roots across Europe and Asia, but it wasn't until the free-spirited 1970s that they truly stepped into the spotlight of mainstream fashion. These once humble shoes, originally worn by farmers and workers for their durability, got a groovy makeover and became one of the most iconic and surprisingly stylish footwear choices of the decade. The classic 70s clog was instantly recognizable: a chunky wooden sole, a thick leather upper, and metal studs clearly visible where the two were joined. That exposed hardware wasn't hidden, it was embraced, adding a rugged charm that perfectly matched the earthy, handmade vibe of the era. Some clogs stayed flat for easy. everyday wear. But the ones that really took off were the versions with bold, chunky heels. They gave wearers a little extra height and a whole lot of personality. Tie-dye shirts. Tie-dye shirts first swirled onto the scene during the free-loving hippie movement of the 1960s, but it was the 1970s that truly took this psychedelic pattern to the next level. The look exploded in popularity across the decade, becoming a vibrant symbol of peace, individuality, and rebellion against the stiff fashion norms of the past. What made tie-dye so appealing was how easy and fun it was to make. All you needed were a few rubber bands, some bright dye, and a plain white shirt. Twist, bind, soak, and voila. You had a one-of-a-kind masterpiece. No two shirts ever looked the same, which made tie-dye the perfect canvas for self-expression. People wore it as a badge of their creativity and their values. Go-go boots. Go-go boots first hit the scene in 1964, but they strutted right into the 1970s with even more attitude and style. Originally known for their knee-high length, square toes, and sturdy block heels, these boots quickly became a fashion staple and a symbol of fierce feminine power. In the 70s, go-go boots weren't just for dancers or daring dressers. They were for anyone who wanted to walk with confidence and make a statement. Made from materials like shiny vinyl, soft leather, and even metallic fabrics, go-go boots came in every color under the disco ball. They were bold, fun, and built for movement, perfect for a night out dancing or just turning heads on the sidewalk. The trend was cemented by the era's most famous faces. Twiggy, with her mod meets futuristic style, made go-go boots look effortlessly cool, while Brigitte Bardot brought a sultry edge to the look that added to its global appeal. Caftans. Before the 1970s, caftans were mostly seen as loose-fitting house dresses or something you'd throw on over a swimsuit at the beach. But when the 70s rolled around, everything changed. These flowing, figure-skimming garments made a dramatic entrance into high fashion, and suddenly, caftans weren't just comfortable, they were chic. What made caftans so appealing in the 1970s was their effortless glamour. With their bold prints, exotic flair, and easy fit, they embodied the relaxed yet stylish spirit of the decade. Fashion-forward women embraced them for their comfort and versatility. You could wear one to lounge at home, then accessorize it and head straight to a cocktail party. That kind of flexibility made them irresistible. Maxi Dresses. The maxi dress was the elegant sister of the caftan in the 1970s, a long, flowing garment that still offered comfort, but with a more defined, body-conscious silhouette. While caftans celebrated volume and ease, maxi dresses brought in just enough structure to feel sleek and sophisticated without losing that carefree spirit the decade was known for. Maxi dresses often featured deep V-necks or plunging front lines, giving them a hint of sultry glamour. Tie waists cinched the fabric gently, creating an hourglass shape without the need for tight tailoring. Fitted sleeves balanced out the long, sweeping skirts, and the combination made for a look that was graceful, feminine, and effortlessly stylish. These dresses came in everything from floral cottons and earthy paisleys to bold, geometric prints and silky, jewel-toned fabrics. Whether worn barefoot at a summer music festival or dressed up with heels and jewelry for an evening out, the maxi dress worked for nearly any occasion. It became a staple for women who wanted comfort without sacrificing beauty. The maxi dress was bohemian, romantic, and quietly powerful, all the things the 1970s woman wanted to embody. Which 70s fashion trend do you wish would make a comeback? Brown leather fringe jackets. While black leather jackets ruled the punk scene in the 1970s, the rest of the fashion-forward crowd had their eyes on something a bit more rugged and rooted in Americana: brown leather fringe jackets. These earthy, textured pieces weren't just outerwear, they were a full-on fashion statement. perfectly in tune with the growing love for Western-inspired style that swept through the decade. Made from supple brown suede or leather, these jackets were instantly recognizable by their flowing fringe, which danced with every step. The fringe often lined the sleeves, chest, and back, creating a sense of movement and personality that felt both vintage and fresh. Worn by rock stars, bohemian icons, and trendsetters alike, these jackets captured the free spirit of the time. Their rise went hand in hand with the broader Western wear revival. Bolo ties, embroidered snap-button shirts, wide-brimmed hats, and cowboy boots started making their way into everyday wardrobes, even for folks who'd never stepped foot on a ranch. It was all about blending old-school charm with modern fly. Aviator Glasses. Originally designed in 1936 by Bausch & Lomb to protect pilots' eyes while flying, aviator-style glasses were all about function until the 1970s, when they became one of the hottest fashion accessories of the decade. With their teardrop lenses, thin metal frames, and cool, confident vibe, aviators soared far beyond the cockpit and landed firmly in the center of pop culture. During the 70s, it wasn't just pilots or military men wearing them. Thanks to style icons like Elvis Presley, aviators became a must-have look for anyone wanting to project instant swagger. Whether tinted, mirrored, or lightly shaded, the oversized lenses gave off a sense of mystery and authority. They were bold, a little flashy, and undeniably stylish. Ray-Ban, Bausch & Lomb's now iconic brand, led the charge in flooding the market with aviators of all styles. Movie stars, rock legends, and everyday folks alike embraced them. You'd see them at concerts, on the streets, and, of course, on dance floors under the sparkle of disco lights. Black leather jackets. The black leather jacket, once a symbol of 1950s greaser rebellion, got a loud, gritty makeover in the 1970s, thanks to the rise of punk rock. No longer just a clean-cut biker staple, the jacket was transformed by a new generation of rebels who wore their angst and their art on their sleeves. Literally. Punks made the leather jacket their canvas, customizing it with studs, spikes, patches, safety pins, slogans, and band logos. It became more than a piece of clothing. It was a declaration of attitude. As punk rock music exploded out of underground clubs in London and New York, the style that came with it followed. Suddenly, it wasn't strange to see brightly dyed mohawks, heavy makeup, and skinny drainpipe jeans walking the streets. And always, that black leather jacket to tie it all together. Headscarves. Headscarves may have bloomed in the flower power era of the 1960s, but they truly came into their own during the stylish and experimental 1970s. No longer just a symbol of bohemian spirit, these scarves evolved into a full-fledged fashion accessory, embraced by hippies, glam goddesses, and trendsetters alike. Worn as headbands, knotted under the chin, or tied up in chic turban styles, headscarves offered versatility, personality, and just the right amount of flair. Most headscarves in the 70s were made from lightweight polyester or smooth, glossy silk, and color was everything. You'd see bright psychedelic prints, swirling paisleys, and bold florals, sometimes all in one scarf. They added a pop of color to any outfit and helped tame unruly hair in style, especially on windy days or after a night of dancing. Fashion icons like Bianca Jagger, Stevie Nicks, and even Farrah Fawcett could be seen sporting scarves wrapped effortlessly around their heads, making the look glamorous yet free-spirited. Whether you were lounging at a music festival or strutting through city streets, a headscarf gave off just the right vibe, carefree, confident, and unmistakably 1970s. It wasn't just an accessory, it was an attitude. Mood ring, one of the most curious and captivating fads to come out of the 1970s. First hitting the market in 1975, these magical-looking rings were an instant hit. They weren't just jewelry, they were conversation starters, personality tests, and wearable science experiments all rolled into one. The idea? That the ring could sense your mood by changing color in response to your body heat. The stone in the center would shift through a rainbow of hues: blue for calm, green for happy, black for stressed, at least according to the color charts that came with them. It was part fashion, part pop psychology, and part pure fun. Teens and young adults couldn't get enough of them. Some of the more elaborate designs, often set in sterling silver or gold-plated bands, sold for as much as $250, a hefty price for a ring that couldn't actually read your mind. 20. Iconic smells of the 1970s. What if a single smell could take you back 50 years in an instant? From sizzling vinyl car seats to the sweet sting of mimeograph ink, the 1970s were full of unforgettable scents. Let's unlock those memories, hiding in your nose, and take a nostalgic whiff of a decade like no other. Polaroid film canisters. Before we had smartphones in every pocket, snapping and sharing photos instantly, there was one magical way to capture the moment and see it right away: the Polaroid camera. In the 1970s, this was cutting-edge stuff. You'd line everyone up, take the picture, and out would slide that square little photo. Then came the fun part: waiting and watching it develop right in front of your eyes. But there's another part of that memory that often gets overlooked: the smell. If you ever handled Polaroid film canisters, you know what I'm talking about. They had this distinct chemical scent, kind of plasticky and slightly metallic, with a hint of something sharp, almost like developer fluid. It wasn't necessarily pleasant, but it was part of the experience. That scent is tied to so many special moments: birthdays, holidays, family trips, or just hanging out with friends. Cap guns. Cap guns were everywhere in the 70s. If you were a kid, chances are you had one, or at least wanted one. The sound, the spark, and most importantly, the smell. After each pop, you'd get this light smoky scent, like a hint of real gunpowder, though it wasn't nearly as strong. It didn't matter if you were a boy or a girl. If you were anywhere near when one of those caps went off, you'd know that smell. It lingered in the air and on your fingers, and somehow made the whole play experience feel more real. Which 1970s scent instantly takes you back to your childhood? Linoleum flooring. Back in the 1970s, linoleum was the go-to choice for kitchen and bathroom floors. It was affordable, easy to clean, and came in all kinds of wild patterns and colors, from avocado green to harvest gold. But the one thing people remember most vividly? The smell. When linoleum was freshly installed, it filled the room with this strong, almost glue-like odor. It was a mix of synthetic materials and adhesives, and it stuck around for days. If you walked into a home where a new linoleum floor had just been laid, there was no mistaking it. That scent clung to the air, mixed with the warm vinyl and whatever cleaning product your parents used afterward. It wasn't necessarily pleasant, but it was unforgettable. Future floor wax. If your mom took pride in keeping the house spotless, and chances are she did, then you probably remember the smell of future floor wax. This stuff was a staple in many 1970s households. It came in a clear bottle and promised to keep floors gleaming like glass. And it delivered, but not without leaving a strong chemical scent behind. The smell of future wax was sharp and clean, with a little bit of ammonia and something else you couldn't quite name. It lingered for hours after she'd finished mopping, filling the house with the scent of clean. You might have even been told to stay off the floor until it dried, which made you tiptoe around the edges like it was wet paint. That scent became a symbol of Saturday chores, domestic order, and a time when everything was polished to a shine. Pencil sharpeners. Manual pencil sharpeners were mounted to nearly every classroom wall, and using one meant creating not just a sound, but a smell. That combination of shaved wood and graphite gave off a dry, earthy aroma that stuck around the room. The cranky grinding noise was unmistakable, but the smell was a quiet part of the memory. Mimeograph, ditto machine. And then there was the king of all school scents, the mimeograph machine, also called the ditto machine. When your teacher passed out those fresh purple inked papers, you could smell them before they even reached your desk. Sweet, sharp, and a little chemical-like, it was a scent every kid secretly loved. You'd hold that paper up to your nose and take a big whiff. It meant something new was happening. Maybe a quiz, maybe a worksheet, maybe just a fun activity. But whatever it was, that smell was part of the excitement. And sadly, it's a scent that's nearly extinct today. What's one smell from the 70s that you wish you could bottle up forever? Phone books and phone booths. Long before smartphones and contact lists, if you needed to look up someone's number, you reached for a phone book. And if you were out and about, you stepped into a phone booth, which was usually roasting in the summer sun. Inside, the heat baked everything, including that thick, worn phone book. The smell inside those booths was something else entirely. Warm paper, sun-heated plastic, a hint of ink, and maybe a trace of someone's leftover cologne or cigarette smoke. The phone book pages were flimsy, often torn or scribbled on, but they carried a scent of their own, musty, pulpy, and a little inky. Combined with the cramped glass booth, it became a scent that no kid growing up today will ever know. It wasn't pleasant, exactly, but it was unforgettable. It was the smell of communication before we carried the whole world in our pockets. Gas station restrooms and motor oil. In the 1970s, stopping at a gas station wasn't the quick, clean pit stop we're used to today. It was a full sensory experience, and not always a glamorous one. The moment you stepped out of the car, you'd catch that heavy, greasy smell of motor oil and rubber tires baking under the sun. Add in the strong scent of hand-pumped gasoline. Yes, you had to do it yourself back then, and it created an unmistakable industrial aroma that defined roadside travel. But if you had to use the restroom, well, that was its own adventure. Gas station bathrooms in the 70s weren't exactly pristine. Open that metal door and you'd be hit with the stinging scent of harsh disinfectants, mixed with damp paper towels, rusting fixtures, and the cool dampness of concrete floors. It wasn't pleasant, but it was real, and oddly enough, people remember it. Permanent wave, perm. Solution in beauty salons. If you were anywhere near a beauty salon in the 1970s, there's one smell you'll never forget: perm solution. This was the decade of big, bouncy curls and sky-high volume, and getting a permanent wave was the way to do it. But oh, the smell. The moment you stepped inside the salon, you were greeted with that unmistakable, sharp and sour chemical scent. It had this eye-watering punch to it, like a mix of ammonia and something slightly burnt. It clung to the air, to the chairs, and especially to your hair. If you were the one getting the perm, that smell followed you home and stayed with you for days. And if you were just tagging along with your mom or sister, you still came out smelling like you'd been dipped in it. Despite the sting to your nose, there was something kind of exciting about it. It meant transformation. It meant looking fabulous. That smell was the background to gossip, hair dryers humming, and stacks of magazines. It was loud. Hair, loud styles, and unforgettable moments. One whiff today, and it all comes rushing back. Record stores and albums. Back in the 1970s, music wasn't just something you listened to. It was an experience, and part of that experience was the smell. Every kid who loved music knew it. Walking into a record store back then was like stepping into another world. The scent was a mix of cardboard sleeves, plastic wrap, new vinyl, and the faint must of paper and ink from old album covers. There was a kind of magic in unwrapping a brand new record, the crinkle of the plastic, the soft puff of air when you slid out the vinyl, and that slightly sweet, rubbery smell of freshly pressed music. These stores weren't like today's big retailers. They had personality, creaky floors, dusty shelves, and a unique atmosphere all their own. Even the lighting felt different. You didn't just go in to buy a record. You hung out, flipped through bins, talked to the staff, and soaked up the scene. And just like that, the scent of those places stuck in your memory, forever tied to your favorite albums. Model glue. If you were into building model cars, airplanes, or ships back in the 1970s, then you definitely remember the smell of model glue. It had this sharp chemical scent that hit you the moment you twisted the cap off the tube. For many kids, it was the smell of creativity, of afternoons spent hunched over the kitchen table, carefully piecing together your next masterpiece. That glue wasn't just sticky, it was strong. So strong, in fact, that parents had to warn kids not to sniff it too much. Play-Doh. Not long ago, I stumbled upon a fascinating little tidbit. Hasbro officially trademarked the scent of Play-Doh in 2018. Now, if you've ever opened up a can of Play-Doh, you know exactly the smell I'm talking about. It's a nostalgic fragrance that's hard to forget, sweet with hints of vanilla, a subtle muskiness, and an unmistakable salty wheat undertone. It's surprising to think it took over 60 years, from its first appearance back in 1956, for this iconic scent to finally get its own trademark protection. Usually, when you think about trademarking smells, perfume, or cologne, probably come to mind first, not toys. But Play-Doh isn't just any toy. It's an iconic sensory experience that's deeply tied to memories of childhood for millions of people. Reflecting on this unusual trademark got me reminiscing about other unforgettable scents that defined the 1970s. Some of those fragrances have lingered into the present day, though often they've lost some authenticity along the way. Others, sadly, have disappeared entirely, preserved only in our memories. Silly Putty. Silly Putty was more than just a toy. It was a hands-on way to interact with the world, especially if you were a kid in the 1970s. It had a soft, rubbery texture and a smell that was instantly recognizable, kind of waxy, kind of plasticky, and uniquely Silly Putty. But what really made it special was what it could do with newspaper comics. You'd press the putty down on a comic strip, lift it up, and like magic, you had a perfect mirror image of the cartoon. It was simple fun, but it felt like a superpower. Of course, the newspaper had its own scent too, an inky, papery aroma that filled the air when you unfolded the morning comics. In the 1970s, nearly every household got the paper delivered, and the ink used back then was different. It actually transferred, which made the Silly Putty trick possible. That chemical-rich newspaper smell is fading now, both because fewer people read print and because the ink formulas have changed. Kids today won't experience that scent, or the joy of pulling a comic image onto a blob of putty. But for those who lived it, that smell still brings back a wave of nostalgia. Vanish crystals. Before toilet cleaners came in bright blue gels and disposable wands, there were Vanish crystals. This strong-smelling powder was dumped right into the toilet bowl, where it fizzed and foamed like a science experiment. And if you were anywhere nearby, you definitely smelled it. The scent was powerful, an intense, almost nose-stinging aroma of bleach and chemicals that let you know something was getting scrubbed clean. You might not have seen your mom actually pouring it in, But once that smell hit your nose, you knew exactly what chore was being done. It was the smell of a freshly cleaned bathroom, and like so many household scents from the 70s, it's tied to memories of growing up, home routines, and those little moments that somehow stuck with you. Fondue and Christmas tree. In the 1970s, having a fondue set was practically a sign that you'd made it. It was trendy, it was social, and it added a touch of elegance to any gathering, but it wasn't something you used every day. No. The fondue pot usually came out for special occasions, like birthdays, dinner parties, or especially around the holidays. And when it did, it brought with it a swirl of delicious smells. Depending on what you were making, that pot might be bubbling with rich melted cheese, creamy chocolate, or warm caramel. Each one had its own mouth-watering aroma, and when combined with the smell of the party, people, drinks, and the holiday cheer, it created a scent that was unforgettable. Now, if it was Christmas time, there's a good chance that scent mingled with the fresh, earthy smell of a live Christmas tree. Back then, most families went with real trees. That piney, forest-like smell filled the room, blending with the fondue to create a festive mix that you didn't even know you were going to miss one day. Today, many people opt for artificial trees, and while they're practical, they just don't give off that same magical holiday scent. Leaded gasoline. Some of the smells from the 1970s are almost impossible to put into words. They weren't just scents. You had to live them, breathe them in, and just be there to understand. One of the strongest examples? Leaded gasoline. Now, technically, that smell had been around long before the 70s, but it was definitely still lingering in that decade. In fact, during the fuel shortages of the time, some folks actually appreciated just being able to smell gas, because it meant there was still some left to pump. Unleaded fuel started showing up in the 70s too, but for a while, leaded gas was still the go-to for many drivers. And yeah, we later found out it was harmful to our health and the environment, but back then, it was just part of life. It had this heavy, almost sweet metallic scent that's hard to forget. New denim. Ah, that first day of school after summer break, it had a vibe all its own. Everyone was buzzing with energy, excited to see friends, meet new teachers, and show off whatever cool new outfit they had picked out. And one scent seemed to follow you everywhere: the smell of brand new clothes. It was strongest in the hallways, where the mix of fresh fabrics filled the air like a cloud of anticipation. But one scent stood out above the rest: new denim. Back in the 1970s, jeans were built to last, and they smelled like it too. That heavy cotton had a distinct aroma, kind of earthy, a little musty, and strong enough to tell you those jeans hadn't been broken in yet. They were stiff, sometimes scratchy, and made a soft rustling sound when you walked. These days, jeans are blended with stretchy materials and go through all kinds of pre-washing to give them that already worn look. But those old-school jeans, they were raw, rugged, and full of personality. If you ever wore a pair fresh off the store shelf, you remember that smell. It was the scent of new beginnings, of fall mornings, and of stepping into a new grade with confidence. Card catalogs and library books. If you ever spent time in a school or public library during the 1970s, then you know there was a certain smell that hit you the second you walked through the doors. It was a mix of old paper, aged bindings, ink, and wooden shelves that had soaked up decades of stories. And right in the center of it all? The card catalog. Those long drawers filled with alphabetized index cards had their own subtle scent, papery, dusty, and a little woody from the drawers themselves. It was quiet work, flipping through those cards to find the right book, but it made you feel like a little detective on the trail of knowledge. That scent, the combination of library books and the catalog, stuck with you. It wasn't flashy or loud, but it was comforting. Kids today search with a few keystrokes, but we remember the satisfying shuffle of cards and the smell that came with learning the old-school way. Baseball card gum. If you loved baseball, then buying a pack of cards was a rite of passage. And the second you opened that waxy little wrapper, the smell hit you. There was the scent of the cardboard cards themselves, dry, papery, and somehow dusty. And then there was the bubble gum. That hard pink stick wasn't exactly delicious, but it had a unique smell all its own. Sweet, a little chalky, and totally unforgettable. That scent was tied to excitement, to collecting, and to the joy of flipping over a card and finding your favorite player. Super elastic bubble plastic. Now here's one that kids loved and parents worried about. Super elastic bubble plastic. This stuff came in a little tube and it looked like colorful goo. You'd squeeze a glob onto one end of a straw, then blow to create these amazing plastic bubbles. But the smell? Oh, you couldn't forget it. It had this strong, almost nail polish-like odor, thanks to the chemicals inside, mainly polyvinyl acetate and acetone. The scent was sharp and unmistakable, and, honestly, a little dangerous. Kids weren't always careful, and if you inhaled instead of blowing, well, that's where the trouble started. Variations of it still exist today, but the smell isn't quite the same. Back then, it was part of the thrill. Vinyl car seats. And if you ever got into a car that had been baking under the sun, especially one with vinyl seats, you know there was a whole other smell waiting for you. That warm, plasticky odor was like a signature scent of summertime in the 70s. Just sliding onto those hot seats in your shorts could leave a memory, both olfactory and physical. Vinyl was everywhere back then, especially in car interiors. It didn't breathe, it stuck to your legs, and it had this artificial rubbery smell that seemed to get stronger the longer it sat in the heat. A 1972 Chevy Nova with stiff vinyl seats? That had a totally different vibe and scent than an 80s Oldsmobile Cutlass with soft velour. Those car interiors didn't just look different, they smelled different too. Tanning oil. In the 1970s, nobody was really thinking about sunscreen the way we do now. Back then, the goal wasn't to block the sun, it was to soak it up. People wanted that deep golden tan, and sunbathing was practically a summertime sport. Most folks didn't even glance at SPF labels, and if they did use something, it was usually tanning oil, not sunblock. Those oils had a signature coconut scent that instantly brings back memories of beach days, poolside lounging, and carefree afternoons in the backyard. Just one whiff of that smell today can transport you back in time, to a vacation, a moment of warmth, or a sun-soaked afternoon with friends. It's one of those scents that never quite leaves you. Sure, we know more now about sun safety, but back then, that coconut aroma meant summer, freedom, and fun in the sun. Chalkboards. Chalkboards were the centerpiece of every classroom, and they had their own subtle scent. The chalk itself had a powdery mineral smell, and the erasers, especially the big felt ones, picked up a dusty scent that filled the air as teachers wiped away yesterday's lessons. Add to that the faint squeak of chalk against board, and you've got a full sensory memory. You didn't even have to be near the board. You could smell it as soon as you walked into the room. Rubber cement. Rubber cement was a school supply that felt more like a craft tool. Whether you were working on a poster or a diorama, that strong, tangy smell of rubber cement always stood out. It came in a little bottle with a brush under the cap, and the glue itself was stringy, messy, and oh so fun. Of course, teachers had to keep an eye out, because let's face it, some kids got a little too curious with that scent. One sniff of it today, and you're back in art class, glue-covered hands and all. Crayons. Crayons had one of the most distinct smells of any school supply: warm, waxy, and a little sweet. Open a fresh box, and that scent would rise up like a wave of childhood. Whether you were coloring inside the lines or going wild with a rainbow sun, that smell was always part of the process. There's a reason why so many adults still remember it with a smile. Crayons didn't just color our papers, they filled the air with the scent of imagination. Plastic lunchboxes with thermos bottles. If you were a kid in the 1970s, your lunch wasn't just food. It came in a box that told the world who you were. Whether it had superheroes, cartoon characters, your favorite band, or a scene from a TV show, that hard plastic lunchbox was a daily companion. And when you opened it up, the smell hit you right away. A scent that's almost impossible to describe, but instantly recognizable. It was a blend of cold sandwich bread, maybe some peanut butter and jelly, a bruised apple, and that metallic tang from the little thermos bottle tucked inside. The inside of the box always carried the faint smell of plastic, a little sweet, a little waxy, and it never quite went away. Even after you washed it, that scent lingered. Field trips, cafeteria tables, recess breaks, it was all wrapped up in that smell. It wasn't fancy, but it was familiar, comforting, and uniquely yours. Some lunchboxes even had leftover crumbs or a sticker inside from a different year. Today's soft-sided lunch bags just don't compare. That plastic box and the scent that came with it was part of growing up. Freshly opened pack of cigarettes. In the 1970s, smoking wasn't just common, it was practically a part of everyday life. You saw it everywhere: restaurants, living rooms, office meetings, even airplane cabins. And for those who grew up in that era, one scent stands out: the smell of a freshly opened pack of cigarettes. Even if you never lit one yourself, you probably knew that aroma. There was something oddly sweet about it, almost spicy, thanks to the blend of dried tobacco leaves and the paper they were wrapped in. It was a dry, earthy scent, with a hint of something warm and comforting, at least before the smoke ever hit the air. That smell lived in coat pockets, handbags, car ashtrays, and kitchen drawers. You'd catch it when someone peeled back the foil, flipped the pack, and tapped out the first cigarette. Avon cosmetics and perfume samples. In the 1970s, the arrival of the Avon lady was a small but exciting event in many neighborhoods. She didn't just sell beauty products, she brought an experience. Carrying her little case packed with tiny sample bottles and pastel-colored creams, she'd invite you to open each lid, dab your wrist, and take in the dreamy scents of a different time. There was Skin So Soft with its soft, powdery warmth. Sweet Honesty, a floral and citrus blend, was a favorite among younger women. And for the men, Wild Country Cologne had a spicy, musky kick that clung to the skin and felt rugged. The smell of those samples filled living rooms, kitchens, and bedrooms across America. Each scent had its own personality, but together, they created an unmistakable perfume cloud that was pure 1970s. Powdery, floral, slightly sweet, and completely nostalgic. Even now, a single whiff of any of those old Avon fragrances can transport you right back to a time of rotary phones, shag carpet, and flipping through the latest Avon catalog with a smile. Pink erasers. There's something oddly comforting about the smell of a pink eraser. If you grew up in the 1970s, chances are you had one in your pencil box or rolling around in your desk drawer. They had this soft, rubbery scent that stuck to your hands after a long math test or a big homework correction session. It was subtle, but unforgettable. You might not have noticed it at the time, but one sniff today will send you straight back to those school days when erasing a mistake felt like a fresh start. Thank you for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, don't hesitate to hit the like button below. If there's anything we can improve, take a moment to leave a comment. We're always looking to get better. Thanks so much. Magic markers. Before dry erase boards were a thing, teachers and students alike relied on magic markers. And boy, did they have a smell. You'd pop the cap, and instantly that strong, inky, solvent-like scent would hit your nose. Some kids loved it a little too much. Over the years, the formula has changed for safety reasons, so today's markers just don't have that same memorable punch. But for anyone who sat through a class doodling with one, that scent is burned into memory, along with your desk art. From fringe jackets to platform shoes, the 1970s gave us some unforgettable fashion moments. If you were cool back then, chances are you rocked at least a few of these iconic styles. Thanks for joining us on this groovy trip down memory lane. We hope you had as much fun as we did. See you next time.